thing is coming.
Mosaic Sky Restaurant.
Official sponsor of our show on the 17th floor
of Elite Plaza at 15 Chorenatzi.
Hello, and welcome to American in Yerevan. You are listening to 103.0 Radio Van with Ina MK.
And Steven Oxner.
And tonight we have a guest.
Yeah, it's always such a nice time to have a guest out here.
Welcome, Lilit Mkarchan, to our studio. Thank you so much for taking time out of your what sounds more and more like a really quite busy schedule of, as you say, knitting with words, to be with us this evening and to talk about your work.
Lilit Mkarchan, translator, interpreter, writer, as we found out tonight. So we'll speak all about this.
Yes.
We'll discover all kinds of new projects and plans coming up with Lilit. How do you feel tonight?
First, hello.
Hello.
It was quite unexpected. And it is nice, of course, that people know you.
Do you feel comfortable in our studio?
In the beginning, I felt more comfortable than right now when you said that you are now broadcasting.
Oh, just imagine we are not on air. Just relax and enjoy your time here. I'm pretty sure.
I will try to do my best. It's by the way, it's really a pleasure to just talking to you. I will pretend that this thing is not there, and I'm just talking to you.
Yes, this is the best way. We found out too that even though these microphones are right in front of our faces, we try to just imagine that we're just sitting on a couch, having a conversation just about the things that are interesting to us.
Okay, I'm at your service.
Ina and I, it is particularly interesting, your line of work, because we ourselves also do translation. Neither one of us has translated a book, however, and so there's a lot for us to learn from you.
Oh, you don't say so.
Yes. And we have a selection, quite a long selection list of questions for you that I'm sure we won't have time to cover all of.
Of course, that always happens.
But the first question I would like to ask you is, in this world today, with the situation of the world, which is in some cases very exciting and very interesting, and in other perspectives quite scary, what role does a translator have?
Well, quite definite role a translator has, and I felt that role quite recently. For example, I have written a blog in my site devoted to these events, expressing my maybe humble opinion, I should say this way, about what I should do if I were somebody powerful or able to make decisions. And I had also placed in my website the translation of the book of Sun Tzu, The Art of War, in Armenian language. I thought that it is kind of a mission I had to accomplish. How else I could do anything? I would be able to go to the frontier with a gun myself, because I'm quite a soldier from that point of view. And whenever it would be necessary, I would do it without a second thought. But I thought that with my pen, and as you said, knitting words into carpets of books, into something more meaningful, I thought that I have to continue the mission that I have undertaken, like translating books into Armenian, books that have never been translated into Armenian, or maybe have been translated, I didn't know. And also quite recently I found out that I like also writing.
So you're a soldier with a pen.
You're a soldier
You
with
could
a pen.
say so, which doesn't mean at all that I won't take a gun in my hand if ever it is going to be necessary for defending my home, my
We hope that will
and
never be necessary to.
Okay.
Very much.
Although I would say I'm an atheist, maybe it's wrong speaking out loud something like that into the public, but I have started praying for these kind of things not to happen, praying for peace.
By the way, I read that part on your website about you.
It came out of my heart.
Yes. So I think most important things that happen come from our hearts. And so we'll pray for peace all together.
Yeah.
And
And we'll be
Steven?
here in the studio until 11 p.m. We're talking to Lilith. If you would like to go to her website, you can go to lilidocs, that's LILIDOCS.com, and read her blog yourself. Then call us at 560901 and ask a question of this amazing person yourself. For now, stick around. We'll be right back with more questions and more interesting answers from Lilith Mukarchan.
English?
English?
English.
No, English?
English. English speaking show, American in Yerevan.
Yes. This is the English speaking show on Radio Van 103.0 American in Yerevan.
Every Wednesday and Friday from 9 to 11 p.m. And you can always call us 560901, especially tonight because we have a very special guest, Lilith Mukarchan, who tells us all the interesting stories about her translating career, which started... How did it all start?
How did it all start?
How did you come up with...
Actually, I didn't tell you the full story. I started translating much earlier than in 2000. That was about the literary translation. But I just right now remembered how I started translating simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And that is quite a story, believe me.
That's
Very sad story.
So you started that way.
It was 1988, the time of the
1988.
earthquake. I was a young and very slim and slender, flibbertigibbet girl, but able to translate. And I went as a volunteer to one of the Armenian hospitals in Erebuni. It was Children's Hospital, exactly the very day of the earthquake. And as a volunteer translator, because a lot of journalists, a lot of rescuers, a lot of assistance was coming from all over the world, United States, Brazil, wherever. And the only language possible for interface was English.
Weren't you nervous?
So I went there for... It wasn't time for being nervous. It was the first time I did simultaneous translation. It was like this. I don't remember the journalist. He was a European guy. And I don't remember the name of the doctor. He was a local doctor. I don't even remember his face, but I remember his eyes. He was already in the mosque, getting prepared, washing his hands, and the nurse was just tying this mask behind his head. They were going to the operation room to do some operation because the casualties from the earthquake from Gyumri were brought into Yerevan constantly. And he said, I have no time. The only way and the guy, journalist, was going to take an interview. He said, the only time I can give you is the way from this room. It was the room of, I think, the director of the hospital. Through the whole walking way, very long hospital corridor to the operation room. And we were running after him, me and the journalist. He was asking questions. I was quickly translating and he was answering back. And all the way it was like maybe 5 minutes, but it was a long way. When we reached the operation room, the journalist said, well, I'm satisfied, thank you very much. And he turned to go away and I also, okay, so we are done here, let's go to other place. And the doctor, Armenian, he said, where do you think you are going? I looked at him, I remember his eyes, I said,
What do you mean?
What do you mean? The only thing he asked, he said, are you afraid of blood?
Oh,
I said, I don't know. Then you are not afraid. Come in.
Oh,
no.
Then you're not afraid. He knew. Wow.
He said, stand
That's
here.
an experienced doctor.
Look to the wall. Don't turn around. We need you.
Whoa.
And we entered the operation room. The operation was going on. There were doctors from Switzerland.
Oh, this was extreme.
But it was, yes, it was extreme.
We have a caller, Lily.
Indeed.
I wonder who this is.
Hello.
And that was my very, very first session of simultaneous translation. Just first I was looking into the wall, then little by little I turned around and I found out that indeed I'm not afraid of blood.
Wow, this was a life
And I stayed
lesson
there for a
you.
whole month. Not constantly, but every day. This director of the hospital, he was sending a car after me and I was doing all the translation.
Well, if you managed to work
necessary.
in such an extreme situation, then
It's peculiar
Let's
to...
see who this is.
Yeah,
Hello.
let's see.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Who are we speaking with?
I used to call you maybe the other day. No, not the other day. I'm from UK.
Oh,
hello.
This is our UK caller.
Oh,
It's very
hello.
much in the theme of the day.
Hello.
You were speaking. I don't. Have you been listening to the program today?
Yes, I'm very happy to see your guest.
Uh huh.
I share the same profession with her. Well,
You-
Seriously.
Me?
I'm mom, and I graduated from Russian, Moscow foreign language.
Uh-huh.
First language is English, second is German, and now I'm living in the UK and trying to not to lose my skills. But it's very, very interesting to see your guest, and I like her story as an.
Excuse me, can you please go far from your radio because we hear an echo here?
And it's a very long way from the UK, so could you speak up just a little bit into your telephone so we can hear you clearly?
Right, I'll try to.
Thank you. That's already
Great.
better.
Okay.
Already better.
And please go a little bit further from your radio because we hear
We have
the
some
yeah.
feedback from your radio. This is technical issues all the time here. American and Yerevan. Do you
So
have?
thank you so much
Yeah.
for your call. And do you know?
And nice to meet you, your guest. I mean, I don't know her personally, but I used to struggle with my exams when I was very young, like 16 or 17. Those were the 1995, 1996. Those years, the troublesome years. And I used to fail every year my exams, every bloody single year. Sorry for swearing, but.
That's
okay. It's American in Yerevan. We say
Yeah,
bloody all the
that's okay.
time.
You feel free. Go ahead.
In 2000, my father moved to Russia for finding business and settling there. And he called me and said, you know what, I think you can work and study in Moscow. What do you think about it? I said, yeah, I'll try. And on my exams, during my exams, I got excellent marks. All my marks were excellent. And everybody was actually gobsmacked with my knowledge. And they kindly asked me where you come from. I said, I'm from Armenia. And I was very surprised and amazed with the knowledge I have piled up all the years of failing.
Good for you.
Great.
Great job.
Thank you so much for calling us today.
Do you have any questions to our guest? Because she is such an interesting person to talk to and to ask questions.
I would like to know which is the most difficult subject for you to translate or to interpret. What do you find most difficult?
That's an interesting question because I have translated, I don't know, hundreds of subjects. Indeed, that's honestly. The most difficult subject for me is stomatology.
Oh,
I have failed once translating for stomatological
dentist.
conference. Not one dentist, there were 200 dentists. Yes,
Oh,
and
so many
well,
terms.
I didn't fail actually, but I was not quite satisfied
Satisfied.
with it. So I understood that. Once I did translation for epidemiologists, and after the translation, some guys approached me and said, "Colleague, where have you learned English so well?"
Colleague.
That was great. That was the best thing they could tell me.
Well, that's a nice feeling.
And they said in Russian even, it was «Коллега, где вы научились так английскому языку?» And that was the greatest appraisal. Well, one of those that I like to remember.
Well, we'll try to avoid all the dental terms tonight.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
I-
usually talk
I hope
mostly
so.
about
I
teeth,
hope so.
but today we'll make an exception since you don't
Thank
feel
you.
so comfortable with
Thank you very
particularly
much.
that subject.
Scratch out those
Yes,
questions
I'm
about
scratching
you.
it off the list right now. Okay, no dentist.
Is our
Okay,
caller
right.
still online?
Yes, she's still
yes,
here.
thank you for your answer and wish you all the best.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
and I
you for
wish you
your
all the best too.
call. Thanks a lot.
How's
for
the
calling.
weather in the UK?
Bye.
Fine?
That's
Bye.
all?
I didn't hear you.
Isn't it rainy?
Oh, she said bye. She didn't hear the question.
Oh, okay.
I was expecting
next
rainy.
time,
Yeah,
Stephen.
yeah,
next time.
Would you? You were in the middle of a story when we got that phone call, and it was wow.
And I was speaking about, I was talking about that doctor that
Yes.
told me
then
that
you spent
don't
a
worry,
whole
you
month.
can. I did every
You
day.
spent
I
a
was
full
going
month.
to translating, and since then I'm translating almost twice a week,
This is interpreting,
interpreting.
synchronized,
Simultaneous
translation.
Simultaneous translation, and I
Wow.
do it from English to Russian and Russian Armenian and Armenian English,
Amazing.
3 languages.
So,
But not only
That's why I said
translation.
since then, since 1988. That's why I said hundreds of subjects. There are no such topics that I have never touched,
Covered.
which have not penetrated my brain and come out of my mouth.
And when you, can I ask you a question? Because I
Yes, please.
for instance, I look for work on vakvak.ru, which is a website for translators, and I often see really wild, very specific subjects, and I think, how would I even learn that kind of terminology? When you go into these situations, or let's say back when you were first learning something, how many hours would you prepare for this kind of
Well,
thing?
in the beginning, I used to prepare for, and honestly, every day, 6 hours per day, before each, conference or meeting
Yes.
or workshop or whatever. I was really very nervous. But years pass, you acquire the necessary vocabulary, the experience, and most important thing is for a simultaneous translator, the self-control, firstly, and
the psychological
a
part.
knowledge of a little bit of almost everything in the world. It makes you quite good layman in every and any subject possible.
Because it's
A jack of all
it's not-
trades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see.
And because usually people don't use too many words, even if they are very, very, very professionals in their subjects. But when they are conversing to each other, they use quite the same vocabulary as
Simple
anybody
words.
else. And if you more or less are familiar with the subject, and you can just say, tell me, what did you mean? And go on with the
It's
word.
important to be flexible.
Exactly.
right?
Whenever, for example, I don't know how to translate a Latin word, that's why the epidemiologist thought I am an epidemiologist. I just use the Latin word, and they think, wow, she speaks Latin.
Oh, well, you're very, very much impressing us this evening, and I'm having such a great time speaking with you. We need to go to a song, and we'll be back. Right now, we're going to listen to Loving You More and More by Michael Franks. And while we are listening to the song, I expect a synchronized translation to the song.
And for those who want to watch this scene, you can go to www.radiovan.fm.
Stick around. Yes, we are listening to American in Yerevan on 103.0 Radio Van, and we have a guest today, Lilit Mukharchan.
Lilit, by the way, one of the most things we heard about you is that it's not that you are a translator or interpreter, but first of all, is that you have translated, attention, Harry Potter in Armenian. So I think this is like the number one thing we hear about you, first of all. Could you please tell us more about this world of books you're into?
Well, that's true. I am a great fan of Harry Potter. And that was, well, I told you it was the first book that I've, but that's not quite right. I have translated something else before that, but it was the most significant translation when I started feeling myself that I have a vocation to do written literary translation. And it was before I started writing, and I'm very grateful to the great author of that book, Miss Rowling, for writing it, because she gave me a kind of
Motivation?
motivation. She opened for me a whole new universe for my creativity, self-expression, and studies, indeed. And well, I started translating it in 2002, Harry Potter, because in 2000 I happened to be well, because of some other projects, I was in Paris, and having a lot of free time, I usually go to bookstores or some kind of
And buy lots
local
and lots
museum.
of books. We learned about that.
Yeah, and it turned out that next to my hotel there was this one of their humongous bookstores called Fnac. People who have been in Paris or in other places in Europe might know about them. So I went there early in the morning. It was 10 o'clock because I had nothing else to do and I had a lot of time to spend before some business meeting. And I was astonished to see a huge queue. The queue was standing for Harry Potter.
The book.
Yes, the book. In English. It wasn't even translated into French then. That was the 4-volume coffer, they call it.
Did you see all kinds of different Harry Potters and Slytherins and different characters in the line? This is something we have in America.
No,
when the book
they
comes
were-
out, everyone
no.
dresses up like a character,
Europeans
and they all go.
are more
fans.
modest.
Oh,
they are
they-
more
yes.
closed
They had their
kind
ties
of people.
on.
Yes, and there were mothers and I don't know fathers, children in the queue. So I watched the queue and I was depressed. That was my first feeling. I was depressed to the extent that I was close to tears. And I just didn't cry out
Was that
loud
tears of
because I thought that people will
envy?
think that I am the lion, some insane lady standing watching at the queue for books and crying because I was jealous.
Jealous.
I was extremely jealous. In the first time of my life, jealous to the extent that I was ready to cry. That in my land, in my homeland, in Yerevan, bookstores are being closed. Nobody is taking care of any publishing or printing business. Nobody's buying books. Nobody's reading. Books are being burnt, like in some kind of, I don't know, fantastic Martian, Fahrenheit, whatever, Bradbury novel. It's very, very typical. And now I'm standing in Europe, in the heart of Europe, and people are happy there. And they're standing in a queue for books. And in Yerevan, I remembered people standing after bread in queue. That was depressing indeed. But the good thing was that it inspired me. I thought that I have a mission. I have to start translating books and creating a critical mass of literature in Armenian language that would be able to interest people to go back to reading. And Harry Potter was exactly the book that would do it. Bring people back to reading, especially younger.
Creating a demand, let's
Yes,
say.
so that's why I decided to translate Harry Potter. And, well, I did it. Well, I told you the story how the book was published. Maybe it's not quite interesting.
Well, it's quite an interesting thing what you did with the book afterwards, because it also became not just a lot of people would see this as an opportunity, I think, as almost like a capitalistic opportunity, like, oh, I'm going to create a revolution. There's going to be a demand. I'm going to make all kinds of money. But what you did was more like humanitarian work.
Well, the money will come. I never think about the money in the first place. If you have a mission, an idea, and you are devoted to it, you start doing it. This way or that
the
way,
money will
the money will
come
come from
where
something
it's-
else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was, I felt, is my patriotic mission. And it might sound even kind of funny. Yeah, a crazy lady Armenian thinking of patriotic mission, translating Harry Potter into Armenian language.
It's great.
But that was, at that time, quite meaningful, indeed. After that, I have translated more than 20 books now. And I have around 20 books started, not finished yet. I was just talking about how I decided to translate C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity, and it's almost through 80%. And I have a big list of books to be translated into Armenian.
You know what is interesting to me is that how do you pick those books? Are those your favorite books, or could you translate a book that you don't really like, but
No,
you feel that
I can't.
there is a need of translating?
I won't be
it?
able to translate a book that I don't like.
So we can
with
say that
Mere
those are your
Christianity, that was a
favorite books.
different story. Once again, because of my profession being here and there and everywhere from time to time, I happened to visit the clerical seminary in Sevan once, I don't know, 10 years ago, or it was Sevan Cemaran, Sevani Hokevor Cemaran. And the provost of the Cemaran, of the seminary, a father, Saint Father,
Yeah.
he boasted, he just shared, learning that I am very eager about translating books into Armenian. He said that, our students of the seminary have started translating C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. And I said, yay, that's great, wonderful. Show me, please. He showed all the manuscript, a huge pile of papers. And I said, and that was really something very crazy to do. I said, yeah, I can edit it for you. And immediately he said, please do it. Edit it for us.
That's a lesson, right? Always
That's
read
great
it
Even there is a
first.
saying in Russian, who was pulling your tongue?
Exactly.
Who was pulling your
So
tongue?
I came home with the Mere Christianity C.S. Lewis manuscript of translated papers, translated by Armenian seminary students
Yes.
from Sevan College of Clerical College. And honestly, I started editing. But
But
after
it
10
appeared
minutes,
to
I
me that you
understood
have to
that
rewrite it.
I have to do it from scratch. I have to start doing it. And I felt
Oy.
responsible. So I said, okay,
You
you
already
have promised, you have
the
to
word.
do it, start doing it,
Go for it.
go for it. And I read it first. I knew about C.S. Lewis because of Chronicles of Narnia, but I had never read Mere Christianity. So I read it first, and I liked it very much. And I decided that maybe that's kind of a sign. I have to translate
Nothing
it as
happens
well.
in vain, right?
Indeed.
And I think this is a very important thing to be translated into Armenian because
Mere
of
Christianity.
because of Armenia's history and because of C.S. Lewis being such a subtle and very, very sensitive Christian.
Great Christian author and a person. And by the way,
I'm very surprised that
did
it
you
hasn't
know
been
that Mere
translated.
Christianity, the book, is a collection of his audio lectures that were broadcasted by London radio, whatever, I don't remember which one station,
Amazing.
in the course of the very first days of the World War II.
Whoa.
Wow. So
Wow.
it's connected to
These
the
were
radio.
his
even.
lectures. He was reading this Mere Christianity and it was broadcasted in London. And then after that, several years later, it was collected and published and re-edited into a book. So it is quite symbolic that we are
That we are
now
talking about it
speaking about
today.
it.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. This is really
absolutely.
interesting
That is
to
going
know.
to be one of my next books in my website. I feel that responsibility towards that pastor, Ted Hyde, Surpaj, because actually, yes, I'm atheist, whatever. But I do it with great pleasure and with great responsibility, respect
sure
to
they're
the
gonna
authors
love
and
it.
to the notions. I hope so because a lot of time has passed. I still remember my promise and I'm going to do it.
And we're just being your fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
Go
here
for
for
it.
you all the
Go
way.
for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stick around. We're still here with Lilit Mukarchan talking about translation and writing and all of the amazing adventures that you've had in your life. Don't go away. We're still here on American in Yerevan with Ina MK.
And Stephen Oxner.
Back to American in Yerevan on a special evening where we have Lilit Mukarchan with us, translator, writer,
Interpreter.
humanitarian, interpreter.
Interesting
thank you.
person.
And one of the books that you've translated I've seen on your website is The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu.
Uh-huh.
And
That's
while I
a
have
different
read...
story. It is a story.
This is a story.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us this story?
Were you
About
translating
Dao.
it from Chinese?
Oh no, of course. By the way, I'm planning to learn Chinese. We were talking about
really?
languages. I would like very much to study Turkish and Chinese.
Uh-huh.
And I'm
Why
planning
these
to
two
do it, so.
specific languages? Why not?
Because, well, Chinese has this. First of all, well, in Soviet time there was such a joke. When the Soviet Union collapsed, they used to say that the optimists have to study English, the pessimists have to study Chinese, and the realists have to study the K-47. So
Oh gosh.
I think that, although I'm not a
Why
pessimist,
pessimist? Because we have to go back to the.
no, because they thought that maybe there are too many Chinese people in the world.
Oh, I see. And we'll have to. Yes,
well,
yes.
Chinese culture and Chinese history is one of the most ancient ones in the world, and I think it's worth studying that language and even translating more things from that language.
I see.
But whatever, I translated Dao De Jing, making comparison between several translations: French, Russian, English, and it was a different story from the point of. I have mostly translated it intuitively, because in all the especially Russian translations, I felt the impact of the communist influence, the Russian influence. In English translation, there was the influence of Catholicism, there was the influence of European way of thinking. And I because of some, I don't want to speak about it deeper, because in my youth I studied Oriental cultures and Oriental philosophy very much, and I felt that it is wrong. So I started translating it into Armenian, not knowing Chinese, but I took several translations, compared them, and I hope it is
the best out of
so far readable. Well, I don't want to say that it is the absolute best translation. Maybe somebody in future will do it better, but that's the thing. You do something and then somebody comes and does it better, and that's the point. Actually, because even Shakespeare, for example, was translated into Armenian by several fantastic translators, like Maseyan, like Dashtens, like Ovanesyan, and maybe even others. Oh, yes, I forgot Samvel Mkrtchyan, who translated sonnets into...
Again, Mkrtchyan.
Again, Mkrtchyan. See, all Mkrtchyans are
blood.
Talented people.
talented people. But I did myself also... Shakespeare, for me, is the ultimate challenge of translation. And I have also tried to translate Shakespeare, by the way.
Wow.
I have finished the Midsummer Night Dream.
That's massive.
I tried Richard III, and I even tried Hamlet. Well, but it's matter of future. So that's the point about Dao De Jing. It's like there are things you need to know. And seeing that people don't know makes me feel that I have to do something to make them know.
There's this man, Benjamin Hoff. I don't know if you have heard about this book, The Tao of Pooh. The Tao of Winnie Pooh.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have heard the book. Of course, I've heard. I've
And I
not
have a
read
quote
it.
that I'd like to read for you, and you can tell
Please.
me if this has any kind of bearing on the book that you translated yourself. Rabbit's clever, said Pooh thoughtfully. Yes, said Piglet, Rabbit's clever. And he has a brain. Yes, said Piglet. Rabbit has a brain. There was a long silence. I suppose, said Pooh, that's why he never understands anything.
Well, that is more not Dao, but Zen.
That's
actually.
Zen. Okay.
I would say so, because Dao is a little bit different. Well, not a little bit. It's a whole different universe. But that's a different story.
Okay, I see.
Can I ask a
Yes,
question?
please ask a question, Ina.
Well, we all know that creative people need a lot of motivation in what they do to keep working. And, well, in my opinion, that translation is a bit of art, because, well, anybody can just take a dictionary and try to translate certain texts or whatever, or do the Google translation. And, of course, this is not going to turn out... I don't want to use bad words on air, so it's going to turn out bad, okay? This is how I'll say. And, well, if you have the same feeling about your work, that it's art, could you a little bit specify how you organize?
I'm getting motivated.
First question about motivation, and the second one, how do you create this? How do you prepare for this creative process? Are there any specific things you do to get all into this
kind
work?
of rituals? Do you have to stand on one foot and
do you have to meditate, or do you have to be alone, or I don't know?
Oh, I wouldn't say so.
Anything.
Well, I would say definitely one thing. Money is not motivation for me, because I confess I hate translating for money. Whenever, for example, there is an order and I know that I have to translate this and I have deadline and I have to do it, and it's
I
like,
know this feeling. You are a
and
creative
somebody
person then.
stupid has said or written a lot of, I don't know, quite whatever.
I
don't want
so
to
much understand
offend
this
my
feeling.
customers, whatever. So I do it because, well, I need to buy coffee and I need to pay for my internet bills. That's why I do for money translation. Now I don't. When I start doing translation on my own initiative, then it's like, I don't know, it's like nothing can
Flows.
stop me. I feel happy.
Inspired.
Happy. And that also brought me into writing myself. Not only it was a big school. It was an academy. Before writing what I'm writing now, I thought about writing scripts, movie scripts. And I decided to enroll to one of American, by the way, New York script writing universities. And I applied to it and I talked to a lot of interesting people, asking advice. And one person gave me a fantastic advice. He said, if you want to write scripts, you just watch movies. See, if you like it,
That's
it
simple.
means the script is great. So write something like that. So that's how I started writing scripts. But actually, and translation was the big university for me and school for starting writing scripts. After that, when I started writing scripts, it turned out that I understood that I like it too. I started also doing something which is a novel.
I see. So it's like starting from one thing brings you to something else. It's like, well, when I started to write poems for myself, I never thought that one day I'll write lyrics. I'll start to write the lyrics for songs. So
The
one
biggest
thing comes
motivation-
from another.
Yeah, the biggest motivation, nevertheless, in the roots of all of is reading. Reading is the biggest. You read, you see,
You learn.
you learn. One of my focus group readers of Harry Potter, by the way, a wonderful guy who is now 20-something years old, but at that time he was just a kid, and I was giving the book to children to read to see what is their reaction. He said, I felt I don't want to watch the movie because when I'm reading, I feel myself as the director. I'm my own director.
Yeah,
I
with
make the movie for
your
myself.
own
Yes.
imagination.
When I watch the movie, I see what the director of the movie wanted to show.
Yeah.
And reading, that's why he was and that was the greatest, appraisal I could have ever heard when a kid told me such words, that reading made him feel his own director, as if directing the movie, seeing it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Very good,
actually.
yeah. Very, very great. And that's
Well, these are
absolutely
the
what I
little
feel when I'm reading books
motivations.
too.
Yeah?
And it's always, I think many people can relate to this fact that when they see a movie after reading one of their favorite books, oftentimes it feels like
Disappointment.
cheap. Or
Well, there are a couple of movies which I
them.
could say that are not disappointment.
which ones are those?
For example, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, really? Wow.
For me,
a
you
lot of
won't
people
believe
felt
it?
like, well, I don't know.
Well, I would tell
Because the-
something like that. Some people would agree with me, some will not, some will hate me for saying something like that.
Oh,
I like the movie more than the book because, now I will tell you, you will
Okay.
understand. In the book, there is no exemplar feminine character.
Oh.
And in the movie,
Yes.
see?
Yes,
Now
I
you
see.
see?
I
So
see.
the directors, the producers, the creators of the movie have done a wonderful thing. They have put what was missing there in the original. Of course, well, nothing can be compared with the book. And by the way, I have started translating Lord of the Rings as well. And you said how you do it. First, I read and I create my vocabulary for that book. I just start thinking about how I'm going to translate the names, the things that are not translatable, maybe making them, localizing them, or finding the correct words in Armenian language.
So
That's
first you read.
very interesting.
It's
First
never
I read.
like you just open the first page and
Oh
start
no,
to...
no.
Okay.
That
okay.
is impossible. That would be just insane doing so. But you won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
You first read. You understand whether you want to translate or not.
Oh.
If you feel that there is something that is to be said through that book, and you want others to read it.
Okay, a
First
message.
motivation. I want others to read it, and how else if they don't know English? How else they can? So it should be in Armenian. Of course, these books are translated into Russian, but that's my point. I don't want my people to read it in Russian. I want to read it either in original, but that's sometimes not possible. So let it be in
Most of the
Armenian.
time.
So
At least in their own language.
exactly.
I see. Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Well, it's quite an inspiring evening for me. I don't know about you, Ina.
Well, thank you.
I think we'll start writing from now on. At least we'll try.
Do it. It's gratifying.
At least
Even
Stephen will try his interpreting.
yes,
Are
yes.
you going to?
Yeah,
as
of
Chinese
course.
say, every long journey starts from
With
the
one
first
From the
step.
first steps.
So if you do want to go that road, start. The only thing I would not advise you, never initiate writing a dictionary. That's the only thing I would say. Don't
okay.
do it, please,
Don't do
please,
that.
please. Live your life.
We have enough.
Don't do a dictionary.
We won't do that.
We're not dictionaries. Well, as a dedication to you this evening for giving us such inspiration, I would like to put on this song, I Could Write a Book by Miles Davis, because I know that you like Miles Davis. And we'll be right back. Keep listening. We're here for another 47 minutes on radio. A very fitting song for the evening as we are finding out the very strong feminine
Woman
energy
power, yeah.
that exists here in Yerevan. Also in the last name Mukharchan. It's a
Yeah.
very strong last name.
Thank
There's so
you.
many really strong Mukharchans that I know in my life. Thanks to living in it.
And Oxners.
Oxners,
Those
there's so
are
many-
so
how
special.
many? Oh, wait a second. I only knew one.
One. Yet. Oxners yet to come.
It's that time, Ina.
Yeah.
It's that time for us to talk about Mosaic Sky Restaurant.
Yay.
Mosaic Sky Restaurant is quite a special place.
Mosaic Sky Restaurant is our official sponsor, and thanks to Mosaic, because without them we wouldn't have all those new impressions that we get there.
We would have
from time
never
to
tasted
time.
souffle that was made from
Alcoholic
rum
souffle.
and coconut.
Yeah, and would never enjoy those desserts and cocktails along with enjoying the views
The views, the amazing views.
outside the window. Yeah, it's amazing. You know, Lilith, it's a place where you can see the mountain Aragat and Ararat at the same time.
Well, this is the first time I hear about that place. I'm not a restaurant goer, writing, playing video games, taking care of pets and
Video
flowers.
games.
Yeah, it's like doesn't have time enough to go.
We have to
But
speak about
nevertheless,
this.
Yes.
you gave me a good hint, and I learned here that by the way, my favorite restaurant in Yerevan is Café Central.
Ooh.
And I have heard that you just told me that
Yes.
Mosaic has some direct connection to Café Central.
Very direct
So most
connection.
probably the next time I will decide to go to Café Central, I will just turn my way towards Mosaic.
You know,
and
as
go
a
try it
poem
there.
writer myself, I'd recommend you to go there because I think I got a lot of inspiration from there, and I think you could do that.
It's
Definitely,
quite a creative
I will
place.
go
you know?
there.
It's not just a restaurant because it's like you can walk in and get a whole experience from the place. It seems like to me every single tile, and there are lots of them because they're all about this big,
Wow.
it has been chosen specifically for that exact spot.
Even on the floor, remember?
Yes, and on the floor as well. And,
We had some photo session on the floor. by the way.
Definitely I'm going there.
and
next
if you're
time
not
I
sure what you
will
want
go
to
it.
eat or what you'd like to have with your food, you can talk to the waiters and they'll give you very detailed descriptions of what you can pair with your meal, what kind of drinks you can order, and then what kind of dessert you can
I
order at
love
the end.
very much talking to waiters.
Yeah.
It's a perfect place for you then.
Yeah, and the chef is definitely really, really creative about making stuff because it's
And at the
it's
same time, very much Armenian because every dish has a very international feel with a little bit of a
Armenian
twist,
hint.
a pinch
Yeah.
of Armenia in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely going there.
You have mentioned several times in the course of this evening which is much too short as usual, that you are writing yourself, not just translating,
Yeah.
but you're writing
indeed.
yourself. Can you tell us about this book that
With
you are
pleasure.
finishing
With
now?
pleasure. Yes, I would like to tell, because it is another kind of mission of my life, and I will tell you now why. First, it was planned, and it was assumed to be a movie script. And the title of the movie script was Garnet Necklace, because the production team decided that it's like more movie-like. Then the production team tried very hard for a whole year to find the financing for the movie, and they failed. And so we sat down and decided maybe it is worth thinking about making a novel out of that movie script. Vice versa. Usually then first
it's
comes
the
the novel,
opposite.
then the movie. But this is the
Opposite.
direction. And maybe if I manage to do my best and write indeed some attractive novel, then it might attract some investors, some attention from public, and maybe then we will be able to find the money to make the movie. So I sat down last summer and made a novel out of it. But the novel is going to be titled My Grandmother's Necklace. And it is
My
That's
grandmother's necklace.
Sounds
Okay.
so really. It sounds so familiar.
might be because there was a novel written by a Turkish author. I would not remember now the correct name, so I'm not trying to say it. And the title of the novel was My Grandmother's Tattoo. So
Never heard of that.
okay.
But
Never
the
heard?
necklace.
But there was
sounds
even a
familiar.
film about that. So this is exactly my grandmother's necklace, and it is more or less descriptive about the plot. Well, of course, I'm not going to tell you the
No.
plot, but I will tell you this is about the possibility of reconciliation between two nations that are in great hostility, Armenians and Turks, and it is beautiful. Well, it's not because I have written it. People will read, will tell what, and it is the biggest disadvantage of that novel. Well, maybe it is advantage because I have a fresh viewpoint, a fresh saying that I'm not a native speaker and I've written it in English. That is maybe
So the
disadvantage.
novel is written in English.
Yes.
Which
But the-
means that you are going to publish it not in Armenia.
No. I'm
I
now in the
see.
process of looking for a literary agent somewhere in US, and I'm looking for most probably New York.
I see.
Well, I hope so, but God knows. Well, what I
Wishing
wanted
you
to
good
say
luck.
is that the advantage, thank you very much, the advantage of the novel,
fingers
yes, cross my hand, cross both, all fingers.
All the fingers, my legs, my
yeah.
toes.
Even on
Advantage of the
feet.
novel is that it is built around several very, very, very true stories. And I don't know whether this person is, maybe somebody else will hear what I'm saying and pass to him. I have no connection with him. One person that gave me the very last true story that I've put in the novel is a really very distinguished, very handsome, very interesting gentleman of Turkish origin. I think he might be even US citizen. I'm not sure. But Cem Toker. He is well-known Turkish political person. And he gave me the very last piece of the true story. I asked specifically him for permission to use his story in that novel because it fitted very much in the plot. And he
last
gave me the
piece of the
permission.
puzzle.
Say, well, 3 or
say.
4 years ago. And so this novel is going to be
Well, speaking about the
there.
Armenian-Turkish relationships, I think we cannot just avoid speaking about our situation now in our country, which very much stresses out all of us, I think. And I think this is one of the cases when no matter whether you're atheist or a believer or a Christian or even any other religion, you just pray for peace and all those innocent victims that are
Indeed.
being killed for no reason.
I know that you've been writing about this on your blog. on your website, lilitalks.com. Is there something you would like to share with us today?
Well, war is the worst thing that can happen to people. That's my absolute belief. And I think that people are pretty much the same everywhere. Like when our guys are being killed on the frontier, well, I don't know, maybe some people might not understand me, but I feel equal pain when I hear that twice as many as our guys have been killed from the other side. Frankly, absolutely. Because I always think that we are in grief. We are seeing these beautiful, handsome young faces that are gone, and the futures with them are gone. These many futures that they could become, I don't know, fathers of geniuses, or they themselves could create something genius for the sake of the whole mankind, not only Armenians. And now they're gone, and you can do nothing about it. Same you could say it about the other side. And the tolls come that say from our side 20 people, from that side 30 people. Same thing, mothers are crying there as well. The same as they are crying this side. It doesn't mean that I am not ready to stand against any aggression against my people. Well, I started to become more emotional because this is very, very painful issue you are touching now. Well, my strongest belief is that history is going to cure this pain and these wounds, and the future is in peace. The future is in science. The future is in living together on the same planet. Because this is what we have.
And creating, not ruining.
Exactly, creating and not ruining. So I'm a soldier, but not a warrior. That's what I would like to say. That is the difference, maybe. I would never start anything like that. So I hope that the other side, people who are responsible for things that are happening, this is kind of different story. This is politics, deep, I wanted to say the bad word, deep S, yes, politics, whatever. And there are indeed very ugly games going around this piece of land, Caucasus, with very, very strong and powerful game players. Each of them has their own agenda. But in the reality, people are suffering. So what can people do? We should do what we are doing, what we have been doing till now. We should live our lives. Armenians have a lot more to do than that. We have allowed our reality to be what we have now. And that is our only our responsibility, what I mean. Armenians should never blame anybody in the world for the misfortunes and the I don't know, the shit that they are living in right now. Responsible people are Armenians, and only Armenians can clean it. If you feel that you are not comfortable, if you feel that, I don't know, something smells, you have to wash it. We have to get rid of the corruption that is killing our nation.
I think the same thing is with, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is with each individual. Whatever happens to you, you should, the first person you blame is yourself.
Absolutely. The only thing I would advise my people, I would advise them to stop fearing. We have this fear in our blood, in our genes, this paranoia that, survivors, something is going to happen again, and let's take care of our family and kids, take them away from this place to safety, whatever. But the reality is that in order to make your place safe, you have to stand, to stay and to fight back. But not only against some enemies from outside. In the first place, we have to fight back against the enemies from inside, from those ugly things that are, deteriorating our reality, making ourselves feel the way
small.
We feel, miserable, humiliated.
Thank you so much for your opinion. I think a lot of people who were listening to us will agree with you, Stephen? Why are
I'm
you
sure.
looking at me that way?
I very much agree with the perspective that we're living in a world now where borders have less and less and less meaning because
Absolutely.
we understand the pain that comes from having enemies, and not just our own pain, but the pain of our enemies. And it's almost as if now in the world, it's hard for us to imagine that those people are not people, that because they are.
They
And
are.
we see that they are very much through, well, the internet, I would say mostly. So we all hope that this will not continue, that it will calm down, and that things will be taken into the hands of peace and into the hands of love.
Let's hope so.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for listening. We're still here until 11 p.m. on American in Yerevan. Stick around. We're going to listen now to Too Much Love Will Kill You by Queen, which is something I do not agree with.
To call 560-901 for your questions. We still have time.
Radio One.
Official show sponsor of
American in Yerevan.
Hey, Ina, have you ever had a dessert cocktail that you ate with a spoon?
No.
Have you ever tried duck breast with picante mashed potatoes, grilled vegetables, and cherry sauce?
No, Steven.
What about sipping wines from across the globe on the 17th floor with a view of both Aragats and Ararat?
No, what is this all about?
We need to go to Mosaic. Mosaic Sky Restaurant, a fusion of views, world cuisine, innovative cocktails, wine pairing, and most importantly, a unique experience.
Mosaic Sky Restaurant on the 17th floor of Elite Plaza at 15 Horenatsi.
Mosaic Sky Restaurant.
There's a first time for everything.
Radio One.
Ampitakic juregalis docetalis purpurum.
American in Yerevan.
We are back and coming to the end of our episode here with Lilit Mkarchan. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
It has
Thank
been
you for
such
the
a delight.
Very nice evening. It
Yes.
was my pleasure.
It was a spiritual food for us. I
Yes,
think,
very
tonight,
much. Very
right?
much needed spiritual food at this
Yeah,
time.
at this time,
Yes.
of course.
We have one last question for you. You
Oh, yes.
started our episode with quite an extreme story of your experience, first time interpreting after the earthquakes.
Earthquake.
I would like to ask you what your funniest experience was while you were interpreting.
Well, actually, the funny things do happen constantly. And I can't even now say which was the most funniest, like the one with the mice coming
Right.
down the
Instead of Moses
hill.
coming down with
Instead
the
of
Ten
Moses
Commandments, the
coming down,
mice
yes.
were coming down with the
I
Ten
was
Commandments.
sitting and listening to a partner who was translating. Instead of Moses was coming down to his people with 10 commandments, some mice were coming down the hill
To the
with-
people.
Well,
And they were
that
saying,
was-
don't kill each other.
yeah. And it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Whatever. But for example, funny thing, yeah, I told you that usually when I'm doing simultaneous translation, and it helps, indeed it helps very much, but I don't advise the other simultaneous translators doing the same thing. You have to be really very, very experienced. And you have to be really very, very in it to do something like that. I keep my laptop before me. And as I said, sometimes the brain, when doing indeed 100% simultaneous translation, it comes into your ear and comes out 100% in other language from your mouth. Your brain needs some kind of distraction, exactly. And it works, the brain absolutely works like the computer processor. You have to partition it in order to make it work quicker. And so one part continues working, the other part rests. But things happen, like there is no such thing as resting brain next to a very, very, very busy brain. This resting brain again wants to do something, and it pushes you to do something. And usually what I do is I check email, I write emails,
Play something.
I play solitaire or Might and Magic, Heroes of Might and Magic, or you just browse through internet if it is available, or look for some explanation or some examples of in
Nice
order
pictures.
to manage to give some style to your speech. some literary style, find some new, say, epithets or synonyms, whatever.
Or maybe
And-
the right mood.
Exactly. And what happens? People watching you. So she's doing translation, like blah, 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 blah. And she's constantly doing something on that screen and typing something and doing something and reading something. And then after, say, one session of translation, two women approach me and they say, wow, this is the fantastic achievement of technology. So all this equipment around in the hall with our earphones and microphones and your earphones and your microphone, it means the speaker is speaking. This equipment is translating everything
And you're
onto your
reading.
screen, and you are reading it from the screen. Yeah,
You have perfect
Deret
diction.
çemerni
Gitutun.
gitutun. Yes, science.
The miracle of science.
Miracle of science. And you don't know what to say. You look at them like, yes.
And you're
Miracle
thinking
of
whether to
science.
disappoint them or
You
tell the
can't,
truth.
because it is. People don't believe that people can do really better
Several
than
things at a time.
technology. Sometimes they think that if person is capable of doing something really good, then this must be science. This must be technology.
Yes.
Well, if that was a funny story,
very
I
funny
remember
story.
because that was, well, usually it's a joke. I tell my colleagues or my friends about my experience, fun experience. Besides the mistakes that I have made myself or heard from other translators, we do it a lot.
Miracles of technologies.
The mirrors, that's what it's all about. It's the technology.
Lilith, you're such a miracle of technology and
Thank
silence.
you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for visiting
A
us
humble
tonight.
miracle of technology.
It was such a great pleasure to host you here tonight.
It was my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed our company tonight, and I hope
Exceedingly, I enjoyed myself the evening.
this is not the last time you're visiting us. I hope that we'll keep in touch and hear more about your success on your book, especially. Yeah,
Well,
we'll
yes,
keep our
I'm
fingers
now,
crossed on that.
again, crossing my fingers. Maybe it was too early speaking about it. But
It was just the
you
right
have to
time.
say,
Yes, you have to say what you're involved in. I've learned that about my life. If I don't talk about what I'm involved in, it's almost like the universe has a hard time supporting it.
that's right. You have to give the message to the universe.
Exactly.
Give the message out, and it will come
and
back.
positive messages.
Positive,
most of the
only
time.
positive message.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Okay, dear listeners, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for listening to us as
Thanks
usual
for
on
the
American
caller.
in Yerevan, listening both in Armenia and abroad. If you would like to know more about Lilith Mukharchan, you can go to her website, lilidocs, LILIDOCS.com, and read her blog. Keep track of what books she has translated and what books she's getting ready to translate.
And also contact
write.
her even through Facebook, because she has a Facebook account, Lilith Mukharchan. And you can always keep track of our past episodes by visiting our page, American in Yerevan. And you can always download our application to listen to us anywhere you go.
As usual, thank you, and listen to us every Wednesday and Friday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on 103.0
With
Radio Van
Steven Oxner.
and Ina MK.
And thanks to our Mosaic Sky restaurant.
When the truth was clear, I